All right, we'll get started. Welcome to the regular school committee meeting of May 20th, 2014. Calling the meeting to order at 6:04. Before we do anything, I want to introduce our newest member. We're delighted to have her on board from Stowe, Nicole Odekirk. Welcome.
Don't think I didn't notice that the new kid's on the scene. But thank you. Very excited to be here.
Happy to have you. And you had a contested race, we understand.
Yes, which was very exciting. Yes, it was actually a good kind of, I think that, if he's here, he said he might be coming, but Art deserves a big hand for stepping up. It put a lot of attention on our race in particular, because nothing else was contested, and I think that's good.
That's good. Great. Yeah.
None of us have ever been contested.
I was.
You were? Oh, yeah.
There were 3 and only 2 showed up.
So this is our annual organizational or reorganizational meeting. And the first thing we have to do is elect a chair and a vice chair. And then we're going to talk about when we're going to have meetings going forward. So for the election of the chair, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Maureen because it would be weird for me to run that part of the meeting.
Okay, so first order of business is to take nominations for chair for next year.
I nominate Nancy.
Do we second?
Yes, I second.
I second it.
Do we have any other nominations? Does anyone else want to be nominated? Shall we have a vote? All those in favor of Nancy being the chairman for the coming year for the school committee, raise your hands. All those opposed? I declare you the chair for the 2014-2015 school year.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Gavel back. Next is the election of the vice chair. Any nominations?
I nominate Maureen Bush.
Second.
Excellent. Any other nominations? Anyone else interested? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Oh, sorry. He's a tie.
Welcome. Meeting day and times. As you all know, it's Tuesday today. This is our normal meeting day. We have the opportunity to change it for this coming year. There would be a couple of reasons that we would think about wanting to do that. One is to make sure that it works with everybody's schedule for the 8 of us sitting around this table. And 2, to coordinate or try to stagger with the other committees in our communities, like Board of Selectmen meetings. I don't know. Alita put together some potential schedules of what
Right, for the 14th.
of what each day would look like and the dates that those meetings would fall. Because as we all know, but for the benefit of everybody else in the room, we have to make sure that we have meetings every 2 weeks in time to sign the warrants, which is what pays all the bills for the district. If we don't do that, then we have to coordinate some other way of getting that business done. So we try really hard to stick to that every 2-week schedule. Anybody have any thoughts, discussion?
Are we in conflict with any of the selectmen meetings?
Apparently on
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays, Board of Selectmen in Stowe, but they meet like, first and third or second and fourth Tuesdays, so sometimes we conflict with them, and then you'll have a 5 Tuesday month, and then we'll be staggered with them for a while. So,
Because I know Camp last year that we were pretty much on their schedule.
well, right, because there aren't that many months to have a 5th Tuesday.
Is there any night that anybody around the table cannot do? And it's okay. I mean,
Mondays are bad.
Monday is not. yeah,
Mondays are
I prefer
bad,
not
And
to
then
have Monday.
Tuesday's about, is there any way to consider doing it Thursday nights? I know we did that before and then we
Yeah.
stopped. Or you did it before and then.
No, hold on.
And I think it was because of Kara schedule.
Kara's schedule, I could do Thursdays.
Yes.
Right. That
I
wasn't,
don't remember she couldn't do Wednesdays.
it was
I
because
don't know
of Kara
if she
that was
switched it. I don't know. I don't think it's exactly the same as it was at the last year when we had this meeting. I know it's,
Thursday would be easier, much easier, but I don't know how other people feel about it.
Well, then there was also, is it worth throwing out on the table a morning meeting?
Oh,
We certainly could.
I can't.
Can't,
I
okay.
can't either.
I didn't think so, but,
You can't either.
I can.
Thursdays are really difficult for me.
Yeah, Thursdays aren't great for me either.
Is there
okay.
any problem with, like last year, we looked at Tuesdays again, but we tried to make it, we tried to start on a week that would stagger to have the conflicts minimized. That's what we did last year. The conflicts.
We can certainly do that. The challenge is the warrant issue. We really need to be on schedule with our warrants,
Yeah.
and we can't change those dates.
Like last month we met, but we still had to have people come in. 'cause-
Right. Is Wednesday is not convenient?
I think we switched that because of Kara's work, but I'm not sure she hasn't.
We were on Thursday.
We used to be
Oh, we
Thursday.
used to be Thursday?
Yeah, we've never done Wednesday since I've,
Right.
Did you text her?
I did. I haven't heard.
so Wednesday is that the most popular? We heard lots of no's for Monday and Thursday, right? And Tuesday conflicts with, two selectmen meetings?
Two. Lancaster has moved to Tuesdays
And Stowe.
and Stowe.
And when are we?
When's Bolton?
Wednesday?
Thursdays,
Thursday?
aren't they, Stowe's?
Bolton's is still Thursday.
Oh, all right, well then leave it. I'd rather do Wednesday then.
I think Wednesday is unless Kara has a problem with it. Nobody around this table has said they have a problem with Wednesday, have they?
I don't love Wednesday, but I'll just deal.
You don't?
I'll deal.
I have no idea what the small schedules are.
It's just, I don't know what those
True, that's a good point.
Yeah. So right now, it looks great. There's no
Okay.
job. Summer's off.
And Nicole, Wednesday works
Wednesdays
for
are
you?
really well, yeah.
So, and we put a,
We reached out to Kara. We
Okay.
have not heard back.
okay,
Do you want to table it until we hear back from Kara?
yeah, let's do that.
Do you want to just talk about time regardless of the night? Just agree on the time?
Sure. We currently do 6 PM. Doesn't have to be that time. That was just what we had settled on at this time last year, knowing that some people are commuting and can't get here earlier than that. 6 was a hardship for some people this year. I don't know if it looks like it would be a hardship next year or not. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
6 is fine. But it's Maureen, how about you?
Does the 15 minutes make a good difference for you?
I liked the 6:15 better, but the downside is that it just drags things that much
Later,
farther
yeah.
into the evening, so, I mean, deal.
Is it okay? You don't have to?
No,
I
it's
mean,
fine.
you haven't been late. Right.
But I have to leave work really early.
You have to leave work really early. Well, do you want to
Sure. Should I?
push it back?
In 15 minutes
But I think those 15 minutes,
at the end of the night, I know.
Thank you.
So 6 o'clock? Okay. 6 o'clock, possibly on Wednesday, but we'll get back to that. The consent agenda, we have the warrants from May 9th, 2014, the warrants from May 23rd, 2014, as well as the minutes from April 29th, 2014. If there are no objections, consider those all approved. Great. So, we'll, can we do this? Can we do student recognition next? Because we're 5 minutes near where we said we were going to do that.
Right. They're both here?
And they're here. So I'll turn that over to you.
Sure. Well, I'm very pleased and honored to tonight recognize our valedictorian, Emily Kastner, and our salutatorian, Pablo Adapi. And we congratulate you on your achievements. I have a little biography that's been written by the high school. Emily's academic work stands out as one of her most outstanding accomplishments, not simply because she has earned grades which are at high levels of achievement for her classes and her grade, but because she has continued to excel as a student who deeply values her education and has an innate, unquenchable intellectual curiosity. Emily has also excelled in arts, creating space in her schedule to play with the school band, to sing with the choirs, and to act in the school plays and musicals. That she has been able to juggle the schedule is quite a feat, but that she has earned the recognition of her peers, advisors, and teachers for her willingness to do whatever it takes to grow in her acting, singing, and playing demonstrates that she is able to apply her extraordinary work ethic to more than just academics. Emily is a uniquely wonderful person, and she will leave an indelible mark along whatever path she chooses to travel. Emily Kastner, our valedictorian at Neshoba Regional High School. Emily, have you chosen where you're going to school?
I'm going to Mount Holyoke.
Congratulations. And do you have a plan of study?
I'm going to double major in math and Spanish with a minor in music.
Wonderful. Sounds like you're going to mirror everything that was just written. And Pablo. Pablo is a remarkably dedicated scholar who gracefully balances the workload that goes along with enrolling in Neshoba's most challenging courses with his pursuits and passions outside of the classroom. He is a consummate problem solver, able to get to the heart of the matter by providing insight and creativity that contribute to a logical solution. He is confident, persuasive, and decisive, all without any hint of arrogance. Pablo founded our school's first ACS-approved chemistry lab and was also a founding member of the Ultimate Disc Club. Although his first loves have been science and mathematics, Pablo has demonstrated tremendous insight in his written work in the areas of humanities. In fact, Pablo is a true Renaissance man, passionate about science and math, history, literature, and music. I present to you Pablo Adapi, our salutatorian at Neshoba Regional High School. Do you have a plan for after high school?
Yep, I'm going to Stanford University.
Congratulations.
I think I'll be studying some sort of engineering, but I have a few years to make that decision, so I'm not going to tie myself down yet.
That's wonderful. That's great. Now, when does orientation start for either one of you? For
August
college?
27th.
August 27th? Wow. That sounds late.
September 17th.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's great. And so you have your whole summer ahead of you. That's wonderful. Congratulations. We'd like to get a couple of pictures.
Michael, look at the two awards here. Behind your computer.
Awards right in front of me. So let's see, we'll do one at a time, and do we have a nice backdrop here? Can we do the
Chalkboard.
Chalkboard? We'll get you pretty cool. So Emily, why don't you come up front?
Yeah.
So you want to hold your Congratulations. Oh no. Papa. The rest of my superintendent's report will pale in comparison. But in other sort of good news, we had a citizen bring forward a ring, a Neshoba chieftain ring, and that was found when someone was retiring and they were cleaning out their restaurant, and so they returned it through our town administrator, whose sister it was, that found the ring from Stowe. And we were able to track it down. Our sleuth administrative assistant was able to find the person. Luckily, his initials were inside, and we were able to find him and call him. and give it back to him. So it is true that once a chieftain, always a chieftain, and it just barely fit.
He was very happy, though.
He was very happy.
That's great. That's a good
story.
Nice story.
Good job, Elise.
So we'll be talking about park testing through at one of the agenda items later on in the meeting, so I'll move on. We did have our coordinated program review, and we had an exit interview, which is common as part of the interview process that they meet with teachers and parents and administrators, and they do review of student records. They look at all of our forms. It was primarily for special education, civil rights, and finance of those programs, which is actually ongoing this week. But the lead reviewer gave us high praise. She was so appreciative of the organization, the feedback by the principals, the teachers. One of the comments that was very touching to hear was that we have, in her estimation, the most responsive teachers who come to school to teach our children and to fulfill the mission of helping all children reach their full potential. She was amazed at how well prepared they were and articulate about their work, and so it was really a high praise for our teachers, and it made me very proud. We'll get that report. We'll get a draft report probably sometime in the late summer. They'll release it. We get about 10 days to respond to it if there are any factual errors, and then they submit a final report probably sometime in early October. We are conducting our evaluation of our school resource officer position. As we said, this is our first year of having that. Dr. Graham and I have developed an evaluation tool based on the job description. It's right now being reviewed by the chief of police, and so it'll predominantly be a survey of our faculty and an abbreviated one for our students, so that we can start to collect data, and if that points to other kinds of things that we need to collect data about, then we'll do that, but that's our start. Ironically, when I reached out to my colleagues, nobody had an SRO evaluation. I was kind of surprised. So we're starting from scratch. We have started our Unit C negotiations, and we've 2 additional meetings scheduled. The next one is this Thursday night on the 22nd. And so we'll continue those conversations. I've begun the conversation with the principals and our teaching and learning staff about the district improvement plan. As you know, we pass our budget with a hint toward the future so that we make sure we have resources for our district improvement plan. So it's not going to change vastly. However, we will be updating it, and it'll be before you either at our second meeting, if we have one in June, or our first meeting that we meet in September. And lastly, Ms. Karen Donato has been hired as the principal in the Arlington Public School District for K-5 elementary school. Karen has been with Kevin LaFosse for the last 3 years. We certainly wish her well. It's always hard to have leadership move on, but it's great when they have this opportunity that's right in her hometown. So we applaud her time with us, and we wish her well. And that's my superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. Is there a question?
No, I just said thank you too.
Oh.
I reiterated your thing.
So maybe here, we can, if there are no objections, flip-flop the agenda, so we could put new business before the subcommittee
I
reports.
think Talia is here. Talia?
Talia is?
So if we could do Talia's piece.
Okay.
You can maybe you can just sit right there.
You're a member of the board.
Are you Jeff's daughter?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, Talia, as our new student representative. We're happy to have you.
Is there a beep? No.
So if you want to go ahead and give us an update, what's going on at the high school?
So hello, my name is Talia.
And the end of the school year is approaching, especially for the seniors. They have been showing their school spirit this week with Beach Day, Costume Day, Country Day, Graffiti Day, and then Senior Day this Friday, which included breakfast for them. In sports news, the track teams have completed their regular seasons last week, and Neshoba hosted the Mid-Wash B-League Championship this afternoon. Our unified track team competed in the league championship yesterday and placed 8th. The softball team is still on a roll. They are currently 18-0 and have 2 regular season games left before playoffs begin this weekend. The girls will travel to Hudson tomorrow and Holy Name on Friday. The baseball team has improved to 10-8 and have qualified for the postseason. The team hosts Hudson tomorrow afternoon for a league matchup. The boys and girls lacrosse teams finished up their season today on the road. Both teams improved over their season, but unfortunately did not qualify for the playoffs. The girls tennis team is 10-4 and has qualified for the playoffs. The boys team is 6-7 and need 2 more wins out of 3 matches to clinch the playoff berth. On May 1st, ex-Celtic Chris Herron came to talk to us about substance abuse. He told us about his tragic downfall due to his escalating drug use, which began in high school. We all wore purple the next Monday in order to show our support for his organization, Project Purple. On Friday the 2nd, we celebrated Earth Day by participating in school beautification and a mini Relay for Life. The week before last, Neshoba Deca went to Atlanta to compete at Nationals, where they made it to the semi-final round. We hosted the Relay for Life last weekend, and it was a huge success. The school is also fundraising for Michelle, a Neshoba student athlete, to support her in her fight against cancer. Students are also participating in a 5K in memory of Colleen Ritzer 2 weekends ago. The Best Buddies Special Olympics were 2 weeks ago as well. The freshmen, sophomore, and juniors also elected the new executive board members of the student council. Also, everyone is very excited for Mr. Neshoba on Friday.
Miss Neshoba?
Mr. Neshoba.
What's that?
It's kind of like a joke on like Miss America and the guys they like their talent competition. It's really funny. It's a lot of fun. 7 o'clock on Friday in the auditorium.
Do you prepare your remarks, or does someone work? Do you work with someone to prepare your
Miss Rich does most of the sports report, and I did everything else.
Well, I think that was probably one of the best ones I've heard, because it wasn't so, and I love sports heavy, so nice job on representing the whole school.
Thank you.
Any questions for Talia? Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you at all of our meetings. So now we'll flip-flop? Sure. Move to the new business part? Okay. And do we want to do the homework piece first, or do you want to do the other one?
Homework's fine.
Let's do homework. Homework first.
She's got 35 minutes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the discussion of homework.
So what I asked of the principals is to simply come and talk about what their expectations are shared at the beginning of the year in their buildings, so that each of the teachers knows how to follow through. And so we'll just have one by one. We'll start with Dr. Grimm, since he's in the front row. And we've discussed brevity for all of the benefits of our principals, so that we can hear their message in reasonable time frame for the school committee tonight.
Just very quick general expectations at the high school are that, first of all, homework is meaningful. And meaningful can look lots of different ways. It can be practicing skills, it can be introducing something new, it can be reading something in preparation for discussion the next day. We have some teachers who, quote, flip their classrooms, where sometimes they'll put kind of lecture information online so students can see that beforehand, so that they can have more of a focus on discussion in the classroom. So there are all different kinds of homework. There's also lots of good research that suggests that homework has a positive impact on student achievement. But the most important thing at the high school is that it's meaningful. And reasonable amounts, and amounts vary by class. We've surveyed our freshmen this year to get a sense of how much homework they have, and it varies, but I would say as a general rule, most of the students, at least in the freshman class, and I think this is probably relatively accurate, although it may tick up just a little bit as they go on to become sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but the majority of the freshmen reported that they typically have somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half of homework per night. About another third of them reported 2 hours or more of homework per night. If you're carrying a fair number of honors or AP classes, that would be pretty typical. And then a relatively small percentage of students reported 30 minutes or less of homework per night.
Comments or questions?
What was the last thing you just said? 30 minutes a night? Is it?
A very small percentage of students reported 30 minutes or less of homework.
And do you think that because most freshmen have a mandatory study, that impacts the amount of time they have on homework?
Yes, to a certain extent. We still have a fair number of kids throughout the building who have a study period as well, and not all freshmen have a study period every day.
Oh, okay.
So freshmen, when they have study, it's usually opposite PE or wellness. So they might have, I'd say it's most common for freshmen to have it every other day, or they might have it every day for a semester. So that can have an impact on it.
I'm just wondering, we're having a conversation about homework because...
Kathleen asked for it to hear what the comparisons are.
It was your fault. Well, I didn't know.
I just generally asked the
looking towards
question, you know, Nancy's always saying, is there anything you want to talk about? I'm like, I'd love to know more about the homework policies in the schools, if there is a policy, if there's not a policy. The reason why I originally asked it was because I hear so many kids up until 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, doing homework. And my daughter, I don't have any in high school yet, and my daughter's going into high school, so I'm talking to friends in other towns that I grew up with and asking them things like basically about honors programs and homework and honors programs. And a lot of my friends were saying their kids in Franklin and Natick, in Windham, New Hampshire, they're taking all honors, where it's not that way in Neshoba, from as far as I'm learning, that we don't do all honors, and we don't do all honors because they're so rigorous. Well, that's fine, you know, don't do all honors here. And then if you have an honors class, if you're in honors physics, is it really during a lab week, you're up every night till 1 in the morning? And why are we doing it? Is it too rigorous? Is it rigorous, you know, compared to other schools? I just wanted to know, generally.
Well, are they managing their time well, too?
Well, I think a lot of the kids in a lot of these classes do a lot of other activities too, so you have to balance everything. But when I heard things like, in other towns, large majorities of the kids are taking all honors and we're not, you know, all sorts of things.
I think honors can mean different things in different towns.
They
Like
do,
I know that
absolutely.
some towns, they just sign up for honors. They don't even have to be recommended for honors. If they think they want to be in honors, they, you know, and they either sink or swim, but I don't think it, honors is a standard.
Just like honor roll isn't the standard from school to school or from town to town, it seems. I just wanted to know our philosophy, and if we, I'm not saying we shouldn't have as much homework, but do we have a healthy amount of homework and not an unhealthy amount of homework? Because I think you can get there. I think you can absolutely have an unhealthy amount of homework on these kids, because they're kids. They're not in college yet. So that's why I generally ask the question.
I can chime in on this. I, in my professional life, meet with kids all the time, high school, juniors and seniors, and one of the first questions I always ask is, how much time do you spend on homework? And I meet with kids from all different towns. And there are definitely trends that you can see, that there are certain schools where if the kids are doing all honors, and there are some towns where kids are not doing all honors, where there definitely, there's some rigorous high schools where they're discouraging that. But those are still the high schools where I'm hearing they're doing 4 and 5 hours of homework a night. And then there are some other high schools where the kids are taking all honors and they're doing, you know, 1.5 hours to 2 hours a night. So I think that it really varies greatly from school to school. But I also think that a lot of the schools that we like to compare ourselves to, for a lot of reasons, on a lot of different topics, are the ones that have the higher number of hours of homework per night. That's been my observation.
So that's generally why I asked for it to be an agenda item, just because I wanted to hear what people thought and how they felt and what we feel as a community, that we want to give our kids a healthy amount of homework, but not expect them to be in a college course with that amount of workload. That's all.
I think the fact that they also have a choice of what level class they want to take in each subject really gives them latitude. If they don't want that amount of homework, then they...
I know, but they also need to weigh that, like, and I don't know this because I'm not there yet and I'm not in education. I'm not an educator, so I'm trying to learn, but if I went to a college admissions board and I was all honors from Natick and I'm only 2 to 3 honors or 2 honors from Neshoba, maybe a local college would understand the rigor, but would a California college understand? I don't know.
They do.
Well, yes, they do for a couple of reasons. One, they all read by territory, so even a California school, if it's a school that gets many applicants from here, we'll still have somebody who specializes in our territory. And secondly, every single transcript goes with a school profile, which tells them how many kids are taking how many,
So it shows the
honors, it tells how many AP courses we're offering, it tells them how, what the bell curve is on our grades, it tells them what our average SAT scores are. So they get a really good picture of the degree of rigor of our high school if they don't already know it. Most of them already know it.
well, that was basically what I was wondering.
In the same line with the homework, I mean, how much of the homework affects the actual grade? I mean, is homework being graded in some areas?
I think that's up to the individual teacher, right, Perry?
But we've actually put that in a report card. I mean, we have, isn't that on part of the lower grades?
It's not graded in middle school.
It's not graded.
Habits of mind.
As a general rule.
As a general rule, right? If it's a long-term project or something like that, it would be graded. But other than that, that's Mr. Perkins, I'm speaking correctly, right? That's the way
You are correct. We
implemented it this year. So it's no longer graded in middle school. Where it could have been previous to that, though a lot of teachers, I think, were starting to move away from it anyways. But unless it's like a long-term project, which they would grade, for the most part, daily homework is not graded.
Okay.
If it's an assignment that, is quantifiable and that type of thing, it could be. But for the most part, the daily, did you bring your homework in from yesterday is not graded.
It's still often checked though to see.
Right.
Right, and it's reported on.
It's reported on, it's reported on as a habit of mind as opposed to a grade.
So would it affect your grade positively or negatively?
It would reflect the habits of mind grade, the
Just that,
MIs,
okay.
yes.
Now, the grade that you have on the MI, would that, like if you had a really low
Yes.
MI, that would affect your grade?
Yes.
Or would affect what?
Well, it would affect your score.
All right.
Although the daily homework assignments are not graded quite often, quizzes and even portions of tests are taken directly from the home.
So it would reflect in the quizzes? Okay, and at the high school level, is it similar?
No, it varies by teacher.
Yeah.
So there are some teachers who won't necessarily grade every homework assignment. There are some teachers who will grade every homework assignment. Homework's never going to be a large percentage of a student's grade. And when it's graded, it's typically that's as an incentive for kids to do their homework because, as is true of just about any endeavor, the more you practice, the better you get.
Maybe then, George, you want
Yes, yeah, sorry.
just talk about old schools?
Overall, I mean, we don't have a specific homework policy at Hale. It's a subject that comes up from time to time in certain particular instances. For the most part, we would never expect a kid to spend more than 30 minutes a night on a subject of homework. That's the general rule we've gone by. So in other words, if your student is spending 30 minutes or more a night, whether it's because of the length of the homework assignment or the understanding of the homework assignment, we wouldn't want the student to continue. So theoretically, I mean, that could add up to a couple of hours if everybody gave that homework. But realistically, most people's homework assignment doesn't even go to the 30 minutes most of the time. And not all 4 subjects are likely to have homework on a nightly basis. So, we want it to be a reinforcer also of lessons learned for the most part. But like I say, not be overly burdensome to a student's overall. We don't want a kid going home and spending 3 hours doing homework, or feeling as soon as they get home they're going to start working again, homework, and do it in 3 or 4 hours. And that general rule has worked well for us. We've not really had many problems, and the few times when people bumped up against it, we've dealt with those in individual situations.
Wow, would it change?
Really?
Often I think as a parent of 4 very different children, you look at 30 minutes, you say, is this kid actually spending 30 minutes, or, what are they doing for 15 of the 30 minutes? Are they really doing their homework for 30 minutes straight, or, what are they doing? So, when I sat down and said, okay, she's spending all this time on homework, but what's she really doing? Yeah, she was spending 30 minutes on the homework. So, I think as a parent, that's sometimes a good thing to focus on. If your kid's sitting up in their room for 2 hours doing their homework, are they always doing other homework? I mean, good students. My kids, they're decent students, so I just think when you really sit and focus and say how much time you really doing on the homework is probably pretty accurate.
Patrick?
But basically, what George said really applies to Burbank as well. However, what we definitely see is teachers that sometimes give homework assignments that stretch over multiple days. It's due in 2 days or it's due in 3 days. If students aren't managing their time well, that can catch up on them, and that can create a scenario where they are spending much more than a couple of hours because they haven't done it for the last couple of nights, and now they're trying to get it all done in a single night, and that does create some problems. So we do see that, and that's something that we need to work with.
It's a good lesson to do the
Time management.
Kevin?
Hi, fine, Dr. Graham over here. How you doing? So in general, at the center school, we have the rule that students are working about 10 minutes per grade level that they're in a night on homework. So if you're in 5th grade, you're working about 50 minutes. The practices generally include math, spelling, vocabulary, and there are opportunities for kids really to practice, as Dr. Graham was saying, practice to improve their understanding of the information, but also as a means for a teacher to do a quick assessment as to whether or not they understood that information. I think the challenge that exists, as I think Julie had mentioned, was that how much time is your child actually paying attention to and working on that? I have a 1st grade daughter, and sometimes it seems like we're not paying all that much attention to the homework. So, we struggle with those pieces of the homework, and we really work closely with parents to not extend well beyond what they think is reasonable for their child, especially if it appears that they didn't understand the concept. There's no need to struggle at home. That's our job as the teacher at school, is to help with that. So, in general, that's how our operations and procedures have worked at Center for Homework.
Joel?
So Florence Sawyer School is not inconsistent with anything that you've heard. We're a pre-K through 8 school. Homework is as much progression as everything else that we do. Kindergarten homework, to the degree that there is homework, is really more homeschool communication about getting kids ready and bringing home things to parents and whatnot, and some activities that parents can use to reinforce. As Kevin said, the expectations slowly ramp up in 1st and 2nd grade to be expectations of getting work done as a reinforcer, as a check for teachers. We also say, as we go through the progression of the grade levels into the middle school, that not only should you not, to George's point, spend more than 30 minutes on a particular content area, but also that if, for parents and students, if it seems like you're spending an inordinate amount of time, then contact the teacher and let's get to the bottom of why that is and figure it out. I don't really have anything else to add beyond what's already been said.
And last but not least, Sean O'Shea.
The other thing I would add, our practices are the same as the other schools, is that we often we expect students to read and do math facts, math practice for math fluency, and that's in addition to the 10 minutes per grade level. That's an expectation that's above just regular homework.
Is that reading expectation a certain number of minutes or just?
Yeah, it's usually at least 15 minutes per night. And, at the lower grade levels, it could be read to, be read to, and progresses to independent reading. Yeah.
One of the things that I didn't hear outwardly, but I think, in terms of sort of the message that I hope parents get is that because homework is about engagement and practice and connections to what's going on in the daily curriculum, we want parents to communicate back to teachers if they're seeing things that we may not readily observe because the homework comes back done. So, I think it was suggested, if a student is struggling at home but gets it done, we may not see that, so we need to hear that. So parents need to close that loop and have that conversation with the classroom teacher and make sure that conversation is held. And I would say that's true all the way up through the grades. And now that I think our high school teachers are just as concerned and would want to know that if their homework assignment is making your child struggle and therefore you struggle. Because oftentimes we'll hear comments like, and especially at the transition years, middle school has changed my child. Well, middle school didn't change your child. There are different expectations. There are different ways that they respond to those expectations, and the same is true when children transition to high school. But the conversation still should be the same. Parents should have that conversation with teachers and make sure they're well aware of what the impact, what's life like with my child in homework, so that things can be adjusted, and they can be adjusted one-on-one. I mean, hopefully we're individualizing enough so that kids can have different kinds of assignments if it best meets their learning style and their learning profile.
As you were talking, just something kind of struck me. How much involvement should the parents be in the homework?
My best advice is very, very little. Clarifying questions, clarifying statements, but not try to help them or teach them differently or teach them in a way that might be counter to what's going on in the classroom. I think some of those events challenge everybody when misinformation gets shared back and forth. So, even in my house, my rule of thumb is, if you're stuck, stop and go back in tomorrow morning and talk with the teacher. And that's very hard to do. I can attest to it. Others have different thoughts? Or?
Well, I would just also add that one of the greatest things a parent can do with regard to homework is to set up that routine so that students have the tools that they need, they have the place that they're going to work at, they're comfortable, they're ready, they've played for a little while before they started, so that they can have a break from the day and come into, so that situation is always consistent for them, and I think you get the best output at that point.
And the kids at the high school who do homework consistently and successfully are the kids who've had that structure all along and whose parents continue to set the expectation that you're going to do homework, here's when you're going to do homework, that time is set aside, that time is sacred.
And where?
Right. Where it is, what else is allowed, are you allowed to be listening to music, are you not allowed to be listening to music, are you doing it at the kitchen table, are you doing it in the bedroom with the door closed, those things all matter.
We're all working to have the students be independent. That takes time, and as Joel says, setting up routines, and I think it's really good for parents to check homework, not necessarily try to reteach concepts to students, but check homework. That gives parents a very good understanding of what's being taught in the school. You're staying in touch. It provides students with a great message that, you're part of the team. And that being done year after year, eventually they're not going to have you check homework anymore. They become independent, and those are the kids that are going to be very, very successful in school.
No, nothing.
Anybody else have any?
I just have one quick question. With the middle schools, do the teachers ever coordinate, like if there is going to be a day that 4 teachers give half an hour's worth of homework?
Yeah, we're getting better and better at that. I think that's something that's been pointed out in the past that sometimes we didn't do as good a job at. Especially when it comes to longer term assignments, tests, that type of thing. We are, trying to get that, so we don't, and certainly should be able to do that. So there's not like a major science project due Wednesday and a major social science project due Thursday, which would top, would be top of that. So more so probably in the longer test projects,
Yeah.
things in the day-to-day thing.
Anyone else have any questions? It's a golden opportunity with all these principals here.
I was just gonna say, I want to say thank you for coming. When I asked for the agenda item, I got more than I bargained for. But I do. I'm gonna be careful though what I ask for. But is there anything the principals want of the school committee or things you want to bring up? I just feel like this is what an opportunity. We have all the principals in the room. Is there anything you want to ask us of us?
We appreciate the working partnership. There's no single part of the district that, as Michael said, in the boarding program review, the district was praised, and that's because of, the support and the advocacy that all of you folks have in our community for the work that we're trying to do. It doesn't go unappreciated.
In the words of Sean O'Shea, ditto.
We can, as part of the district improvement planning process, and we've done this before, sort of like little workshop sessions, and have the principals be part of that, so that we can tease out some of the goals in terms of what they are, and that way you can have more individual conversations by tables with specific needs. That's worked well in the past. There's an ulterior motive too, because we have a new member. I wanted her to be able to have a face to a name, and I'm not sure we totally did that. Do you know who now is the principal at each of the schools?
I think I do. I'm pretty quick.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming. I know the next...
We do honor roll.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe that would be something that you'd be interested in hearing about.
They are?
Okay.
So we are in a pilot year with our report cards at the middle school level, and one of the nuances of having report cards for all three district schools, middle school level, is that we need to have, doesn't look very bright to me. So we needed to have a common honor roll. I learned, I've always known that there were slight nuances to each of the honor rolls, but in fact there were significant differences among all the honor rolls. So we've worked informally and formally to come up with a draft plan. We're presenting it here tonight. The schools are going to talk with their school councils, and then we'll have a period of feedback from parents to see how it's responding. We might be able to finish all of that before our last meeting. If not, we'll roll it over to the fall so that we give people enough time to respond. But it's a pretty simple approach. The idea about honor roll is that it should encourage our students and be a reward for those who have high achievement. And so we're really trying to clarify what high achievement looks like. And so in this proposal, essentially we have two levels, high honors and honors. To earn high honor status, it would be 93 to 100. And that means, of course, that you could not have a C, D, or F, or an incomplete. At the high school level, they use GPA. We felt that it was important to stay with GPA model, so their GPA would be a 3.75. But again, the qualifier is there could not be a C, D, or F in that group. For honors, it would be 85 to 92.9. Again, no C, D, or F, or incomplete. And for the high school, the GPA would be a 3.0. So this would include all courses taken over the course of their load, whatever it is. And our honor roll is for grades 6 through 12. And so we will be looking at it from that framework. We know we do have grades at grade 5. But this honor roll is for grades 6 through 12.
Is that a combined GPA? Like, is that, so if?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that
So
just for the?
it's a summation of the
It's
classes?
an average.
It's an average of all the
Of
classes?
all their classes at the high school.
It's not per class has to meet that?
Correct.
Got
So
it.
that's currently very similar to how it is now, although now you could earn a C at the
In
high
our
school
high
level.
school.
So a kid could get a C in honors and straight A's and not make the honor roll. So a child could have a C in an honors class and have straight A's and everything else and not make the honor roll.
According to this, that's right.
Because that's an unweighted GPA we're talking about.
That's right.
I was where you are right now, but I kind of thought about it a little bit more. And why don't you?
I just think, you know, a C in an honors class, if they were to knock down a level, it'd be a B or it'd be an A, depending on, you know, where they're at. And I mean, some of those classes, a C in honors physics, you know, I mean, if you can get, I couldn't get a D in honors physics, but I just think that's tough. I think that's tough for a kid who is even enrolled in a class like that, is struggling to get a C, obviously, but, you know, got it. I just think the levels at the high school needs to be taken into consideration.
This is the kind of
Just my
feedback we
opinion.
want.
I looked
Yeah.
up 5 high schools. I looked up Wellesley, Lexington, Concord, Carlisle, and Algonquin. Well, I'm not an educator, so I need my own data.
I want to hear what you have to say.
I was surprised at how different every single one
Yeah.
of them was. I couldn't believe that, like, how, like, it's like honors classes in high school. I just, everything surprises me. But I'd say half of them, including our old, you can't get a C, and half of them, you can't get a D. And most of them.
I mean, I'm not pushing for
Well,
that.
you can get a C, but your total weighted average has to be similar to ours. You know what I mean? So if you get a C in an honors physics class or something. But most of them, almost, I think all of them were on core courses or courses with a value of 2.5 or greater. So they don't include specials. And this is going to include specials. I don't have a
At the
strong
middle school
opinion.
level, it would include the specials. At the high school level, it would include their entire course load.
Right, so I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just telling you, I found that the other ones, nobody was doing that. It was.
Do the other ones use the weighted GPA or the
They all had both listed, so they must use the
I think
weighted.
at the high school, if we use an unweighted GPA, that sort of puts everyone at an even playing field. So the kids who have honors or accelerated classes get the credit for those, and that's how we should base it at the high school. I mean, that's
This is
how
an
college.
unweighted GPA.
You meant
Yes,
weighted.
You meant weighted. Yeah,
weighted.
a weighted
Okay.
GPA. I mean, a kid could have a 3.8 or 3.9, or even a 4.0 and have a C on their report card.
But then I was where you are, but then I thought it kind of slaps the wrist of the kids who aren't taking honors classes, and is that fair?
No, because they could have straight Bs in college prep and be on the honor roll, because they'd have a 3.0.
Can I make one more comment, just in lieu of your comment? Most of them had 3 levels, not 2. Some had 4. All of them had, well, no, I guess.
We
all
had
but
3,
one
we
had
funded
3.
2.
So, okay, so that was part of the other confusion.
on their honor rolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lexington had 4 levels, so you could get, you know, those lower guys, you know, into something, like an honorable mention, or, I'm just saying.
I know, I get it.
Or,
I think part of the reason,
commended.
if I can say this out loud, that was changing the model at all is so that 80% of the class isn't on the honor roll.
That's
Right.
part. We're trying to define rigor and achievement of rigor.
What I question, and
That's a great stat, like, that's really interesting.
wonder, oh, I just made that up.
She's.
I don't know this.
Maybe some of those principles could verify or just quickly. You did, Perry, you just published the number of how many were on the honor roll. It was in the high 600s.
60-ish% of the students make will be on
There's
one of
3.
the honor rolls.
We're on one of the honor
We have 3 right
And in the
now.
middle schools, it must be higher than that.
students.
Yeah, I think 80's on the low side.
Yeah, I would say
80's
maybe
on
it's
the
80's
low
on the low
side?
side,
Yes,
yes.
right. We're trying to move away from everybody gets
It's a trophy.
trophy, you know, to
Right.
define that. So, but, you know,
And
the.
so we have to keep that in mind as
Right.
we look at these new parameters.
Right.
So, but the thing that I'm having a hard time with is, why are we including the non-academic courses like PE and art when this is supposed to be an academic honor? I'm just.
Is it an academic honor, or is it a whole learner honor?
I agree. I don't get it at all, but I don't have a strong, I just don't get it.
I would.
I mean, when we're calculating GPA, which is what we're using here, well, it's supposed to be, a GPA is supposed to be the core academic subjects. And it would be the courses that are leveled.
But then, Nancy, what you're doing is you're kind of,
You're eliminating a whole.
you're really eliminating a whole group of the student body who, and I know you don't agree with this necessarily, but who have intelligence in another area, who are.
We're not eliminating them, they still have I mean, they still have to take their core subjects. Everybody does.
But the kids who are taking the core subjects and are doing really, really well, and then are kind of like, or not doing well, or they're not as strong in those other areas, it's not really taking it. Actually, I disagree with you, but I would agree to disagree. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, I think where I come from on that is, we believe that all of our courses are academic. But I appreciate the distinction for the purposes that you point out. You know, all of our classes are academic. The learning is taking place in every one of our courses. And our teachers want their courses to be seen as valued on par with all other courses. So, you know, to your point about everybody has a strength, everyone has an area of interest, you know, I would be hard pressed to say to a student, art isn't very important, so we're not going to count it. At any level, high school.
I didn't mean to imply that art is.
No, you didn't.
I know, but
I love art.
I'm just trying to describe.
And I love artistes.
I'm just trying to describe to a student, you know, that it's not counted. So this counts everything. It says everything's important. We want all kids to try. We want all kids to be successful. And this is only one area that we recognize achievement and their particular growth. There's so many other ways that kids get recognized.
But what are
just
they?
one.
To Julie's point, because that was my concern when I first looked at it was, yeah, but I got a kid who's taken 3 honors courses and really killing himself to get good grades in those honors courses, and they're rigorous. But then, you know, I'm just going to tell you the argument in my head, so you can tell me where I'm right or wrong. But then I think, but then that kind of jeopardizes, or that's not the right word, I'm not doing well tonight, but that kind of like puts the kid who isn't ready to take those really difficult honors courses, kind of never gives them the chance to achieve high honors.
No,
Is that right?
No, they
No,
don't.
they can still do
What am I
Because the
missing?
GPA would.
Because they can get straight A's.
Oh, you're just saying give the
I'm just saying the
extra bump to the
Right.
kids with the honors class.
You get,
If you say no C, or, you know, no C
that's
plus.
not saying no C.
Oh.
For
Leave
high school kids,
Right.
it should be
Leave the
based
no
on their
D out.
GPA.
That's-
So, I mean, we can have, and there are different models, you know, this is our draft starting point. So, I mean, we can offer the weighted GPA and say that we take C off, and so that kids can earn a C. And that would take care of that issue from the get-go.
Does this have any implications for colleges or just
Like
internal?
It doesn't really, because as Kathy pointed out, every school has a different way that they do this, and so, quite frankly, it's become meaningless. I mean, because
It's more of a
there's
local
no standard for it. So there's no way to say, oh, this person has high honors, well then they are better than this kid from this other school who didn't get high honors, because they're apples and oranges.
Okay.
I don't mean to be cynical about honor rolls not being good. I just mean that there's no standard to them, so.
Right. Oh, I think we have to have one. I think it's something to strive for.
I mean, and it certainly is something that every high school student who's college bound is gonna put on their application, honor roll, 9th, 10th, 12th grade, or whatever happened to them. And that's in their honors and awards section. Yeah.
How often are you posting this?
You know, that's a good question. We didn't really answer that yet. The idea that right now would be that it would be all 3 trimesters for the middle schools, and I believe the high school does it quarterly. So that would, presumably continue.
So the only other thing that I want to say out loud is that my other objection or point of discussion is that I just want to be careful that we're not discouraging kids from taking hard classes.
Right.
And we keep doing that in various ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do it with our National Honor Society. We do it in a lot of other places, and this is one more time we're going to be doing it. Because we're going to be saying, so if you don't have a 3.75, you better take lower classes so you get
that. Exactly. I mean, I've got kids at my house saying, oh, I have a 4.0, but I didn't take one honors class. There's a kid who has a lower GPA, but has taken 2 honors classes every semester, but their GPA is a little lower. I mean, in the long run, when they're, applying to college and people look at the thing, it works, but that, I think it is, just telling my other kids, don't take any honors, you should do much better all along.
It's just the attitude that we're...
Right, exactly.
That we're promoting.
Yeah.
That, you should be doing whatever you can do to get all A's.
So do you think do you think Julie's suggestion would help to minimize that?
Well, maybe, but the downside to it, because we're just discussing here, is that we're going to wind up with 80% of the kids on the honor roll again.
Maybe we can run the numbers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to look at the data,
That's
because
really
I'm not sure that this is discouraging anybody from taking courses that are rigorous. In fact, I think because the ultimate goal is college, and they know and understand certainly by the end of their sophomore year, that it's the rigor of the course that will get them into the college of their interest. That's going to be a bigger driver than whether or not they make the honor roll or not, or whether they're in the National Honor Society or not. So I'd like to look at the data a little more around that to fully understand that.
That's true, but I think there's something it's a pat on the back that they don't get, and doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's like, good for you, you did rigorous courses.
Yeah.
You didn't make the honor roll. It's like counterintuitive almost. It's just weird.
And I guess, well, since for years and years and years we've had 3 levels of honor roll at the high school, it's kind of tough to look at this really, really good to get plus honors. And then there's this huge sea of, I think especially for the kid who just misses the 3.75 and gets a 3.72, that it's that high honors was a nice middle ground for the, because you're sort of making a huge clump of people together, and then you're sort of selecting a chosen few for high honors. And I guess,
Why do you have to have more than one?
For
Don't look at me
distinction?
like I'm crazy.
No, I'm just trying to understand the question. Just have honor roll.
Just have an honor roll.
Yeah. And I don't bring it up to create lots of discussion, but if the issue, and I agree with you, if like everybody, you look at the list, I'm like, oh, my kid's on there, isn't that great? But everybody else is on there, and frankly, I don't need the public. My kids don't need the public visibility. They don't ask for it. They're embarrassed. Whatever. Do not keep my kids off the honor roll. But
it's his fault, man.
But
it's his fault.
But
he's in control of that.
Yeah. But to your point, should it just be you're either on it or you're off? I mean, make it a.
Well, I don't
know. But don't you look at the kids who make the highest honors? You're like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
that's sick. That's sick, right?
Well,
I know.
They have like they
got straight A's.
Right.
Well, but you don't know what level they're.
Well, then you look. Yes. I do make those.
So that's why it's diluted. The value of that wow is diluted already, because it could be all you know, I don't know, CP classes or they
Right,
could be
and
all.
to the contrary, I do think sometimes the child that, you know, learning maybe doesn't come as easy to them, and they're in maybe college prep classes, and they get all A's for the first time in their life, they made an enroll.
And that should
That's
be
huge.
a great thing.
You
It is
know,
a
so,
great thing.
you know. Does it really matter?
We have a citizen's comment.
I'm Sam, I'm a freshman at Neshoba, and I think that if making the honor roll or not is really meaningless compared for college applications and things like that, and it's an issue as to how to do it and who gets on it and who doesn't, why don't we just get rid of it altogether?
You had those conversations. I mean, there are definitely, there's a defense of that argument. But I think, first of all, the history of having it, and the recognition is important for lots of different stakeholders, be it parents, be it students. I do think it's a motivator for different kids for different reasons. Many of them talked about tonight. I think it would be difficult to get rid of it.
I also feel like so often we have the conversation of not really celebrating academic achievements as much as we do sports achievements and the extracurriculars. And since they really are at school to learn and we want to encourage them to achieve, we do need to recognize it somehow. So, but then of course there's all the equivalent about the rules, just like when colleges go to qualifiers. You know, back in the day when you got an A, a B, a C, or a D, and now you've got the AB or the B plus or whatever they do to sort of.
Well, everybody's trying to get an advantage, you know, that's how they're doing it. I mean, actually, the irony, I think, of the two issues that we're proposing here, or discussing at greater length, encouraging students to continue to add rigor to their course load, and the issue of having specials involved, is if we use the weighted GPA and added the C to both categories to the high school, that would take care of all of that. And at the middle school level, we don't have a weighted model to use. So you would have just the GPA, and you just use the GPA. If we went that way, we would just have 80% of the students, because we do have high-performing kids. Which isn't a bad thing either. I mean, to have high numbers of kids on the annual. We just have to be careful of rate inflation.
If it makes some people really happy, then great.
And maybe there's a medium.
But was the issue that so many, it seemed like the majority of the kids were on the honor roll, or was the issue of, I think more in middle school, of specials being a part of the honor roll, or keeping kids off the honor roll? Or was it?
We're not trying to keep anybody off the honor roll.
No, I don't mean, but it was, I think it was brought up before that kids who had strong core classes and got a C in gym.
Right.
So their core classes they did really well in, but then they weren't on the honor roll because of their C and F.
I mean, that came up in the conversations. It really was more that we want to make sure we place appropriate value on all the courses. You know, from our vantage point, there is, well, there's something called core because the curriculum and some of the state frameworks talks about core. There's really, they take all the courses, and it's important that they take all the courses. Otherwise, we wouldn't offer them, and frankly, because we require them to take them, for middle school kids, it is core. You know, it's different at the high school because it's not, they take their own courses, but at the middle school, they have no options. They have to take it, so it's all core.
But then the GPA eliminates the issue of the extra classes. If you're looking just at GPA.
Yeah, it eliminates that, and it eliminates the issue of the level of the course.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
It's hard to come down on either side of anything when I don't really understand what the mission of the honor roll is. And what
It's to recognize achievement.
academic achievement, students' overall achievement. I think that, yeah. Then academics should.
But how,
Yeah.
as Michael
But
said,
the
all our
definition
courses
of
are
academic is
academic.
what's at stake. Well, what's being discussed.
And really at the high school too, because by law, our students have to take 990 hours of coursework over the course of their school year. Really, everything that they take, because we also define what they have to take, is core too. I mean, when you stop and think of it that way, they have to take art, they have to take, fine arts, they have to take technology. So, we define core for them by saying this is what you need to graduate. So they have no options there.
Yeah, I would have a hard time eliminating the specials. I just don't think it's fair.
No, I think more of eliminating specials in the conversation I recall was of making sure that, especially in the middle school, that they're graded subjectively. I mean, obviously some kids are going to be really good in art, and some, I believe that some of it is just a talent you have. Some people are musical, some people are not. But if everyone has the effort in doing their work, then that should get an A, not because your clay structure's lopsided, I mean, if you tried really hard and, put in the work and the result wasn't, a Picasso, then that's, or was, either way, I think that was a big issue with the middle school having specials grading problem.
Actually, what's going to affect it a lot now is, if I understand you correctly, is habits of mind. Now, that's not the high school, right? That's just the middle school?
Correct.
So how is that going to affect, and how is that graded?
So that's not a grade, so it won't affect the honor roll.
You just told me you did earlier.
Well, the MRI.
Well, you've got to have the MRI, yes.
Well, that's, so it just knocks you off totally? So you could have a 4.0 and habits of mind are low, or you don't have an MRI, so boom, you're off the honor roll.
Right.
What did the M&I stand for?
So you just said this was about
Inconsistently
academics.
meets and MIU for the habits of mind that we mark on the new report cards. M is meets
Yeah.
expectations, I is inconsistently meets expectations, and U is, what is it? And I know it's not.
Unsuccessfully?
Right.
No, but it's almost essentially doesn't meet, almost never meets.
But you're giving them the benefit of the doubt with the I.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty big.
That's a broad.
That's for the kid who's trying, but just isn't quite.
Yeah, is inconsistent, but isn't kind of like.
Well, actually, that's for the kid who's maybe not trying quite as hard.
Could be. Could be both, yeah.
Could be both.
But if this is strictly academics, and then meeting it by with a 4.0 without any effort.
But so if you really want to get into splitting hairs and it's strictly academic, then what you're doing is saying we could take kids who get all A's and they're brilliant, but they're really difficult in the classrooms. And I think that's not really the type of student you want to elevate to an honor roll, is it?
That's what he's saying, he's going to knock you off of it.
Again, I think there are
That's
different
what he's
ways that we
saying.
recognize.
And that's what I agree with. But if you take away the MRI caveat, that's my concern is that you would get
help.
that. So
That's right, that would
I
address
don't know
that.
why we would worry about or have a concern or an issue with the MRI bullet.
So if you have a kid that's doing 4.0 work,
It's
and
an
they're-
MIS, not MIU, I'm sorry, I had that wrong, so the S is seldom meets.
Okay, go ahead.
so they're doing 4.0 work, so all this stuff is, but they're difficult in the classroom. I mean, they probably should be advanced or something, they're probably bored, but you're saying they shouldn't make the honor roll, they should be punished?
I'm saying if their learning habits are impacting the rest of the classroom, which generally is what happens, then is that an honor roll student that you are elevating? Because the point of the honor roll is to elevate high achieving students and students who are working towards high achievers. So it's not just about Johnny's really good at math, science, English, and history. It's that Johnny is good at that. He's a he's a collaborative learner in the classroom, and he's not causing problems. I don't know, I'm not an educator, I'm just throwing it out there.
That lower grade, not so much the high schools, we really focus on educating the whole child. Right. And if the whole child, emotionally, socially, whatever, and they're not, and I'm sure it's not going to be a kid who's trying but isn't. It's the kid who's just not doing anything.
Right.
Who's just, I'll handle my work because I'm super smart but I don't care. I'm rude to the teacher. I'm disruptive in the class or whatever for whatever reason. So that's how I see.
But is that a failure on our part because we're not?
It could very well be, and that's why I think that we pay attention to it and we think it's part of achievement. So if we're seeing that a student is getting all A's and we're not doing something to really challenge them, then that is something that's
So
on our
why
part.
would you punish them?
Again, I don't think it's there to punish them. It's to make them aware that all of the habits of mind, like we were just talking about homework, are contributors towards high achievement. And so you have to have those practices in order to get there. We're trying to teach them to pay attention to habits of mind by having that as part of our.
And that all your actions have consequences is
Exactly.
a wonderful lesson for children.
I think you're just going to make it worse because now they just can't win. I mean, they're getting 4.0 and no, you can't be on honor roll because you don't have an M or an I.
Well, first of all, it's only the middle school, it's not the high school.
Right.
And second of all, just from watching the grading of this, we've only done it this year. I assure you, someone getting a U is going to have, an S, I keep saying U, that's the other, is going to have to work really hard to get that S. So, I mean, this is one of those, so I really think,
So the
I
likelihood
looked
that
through
they're
it, it's
getting...
extraordinarily low likelihood. Because I looked through it to see what would happen if we had these types of standards. I think like virtually no one got knocked off. Because not that many students receive an S, but not that many students seldom do those things in the habits of mind. So that's number one. And the ones whose habits of mind are that at that level are going to have a very, very difficult time. It's almost impossible, no matter how basically intelligent and smart you are, to get a 4.0 and also get S's and habits of mind. I cannot think of the kid who does that.
Well, I think the problem I have is, I mean, this is supposed to be based on academics, which is pretty much black and white, but that particular thing is subjective.
Well, it's not subjective.
No, it shouldn't be subjective.
No,
Teachers should have basis for giving the scoring.
Yeah, definitely.
And those should be taught to the kids and make sure they're aware of how they'd be scored. Absolutely.
And they certainly have that.
I mean, that's been our work for a number of years, is to make clear to our kids what it takes to grow. And whether it be in habits of mind, we have rubrics for that. If it's in math practices, we have rubrics for that. If it's in English writing, we have rubrics for that. So we're really trying to teach kids what are the components of learning and what are the components of the standards we're expecting you to achieve. So that's a big part of our mission.
What if we, I'm just going to throw this out. What if, and I'm thinking out loud, I haven't thought this through, so bear with me. What if we had this very policy for the middle school and the high school, but for the high school, those GPAs were weighted?
That might be something we have to do.
I mean, that might solve a couple of our issues here, because then we're not penalizing the kid who takes all honors class and gets 1C, because their weighted GPA will be high enough.
Right.
The only problem we won't be solving with that is, will we be up to 80% again? I don't know. Probably.
I believe if you weight the GPA, also you're not including unleveled classes, which would cover most of the electives classes. Leveled classes are included in the weighted GPA. Unleveled classes wouldn't be included in the weighted GPA.
Right, but they do get, while they're not weighted, they have, still they go to the 4.0.
They do, but I believe if you're using a weighted GPA, if that's the calculation. So I guess you could do a hybrid. You could weight the leveled classes and not weight the unleveled classes and average those together, which would be logistically.
Well, it already works that way.
That's right, it already works that way.
So the weighted, the leveled classes are weighted, and the unleveled classes are not weighted. So a kid who doesn't take any accelerated or honors classes, their weighted GPA and their unweighted GPA will be equal. So really, all you're doing is, you just, well, what I just said. You're just giving the people who are taking the higher level classes a little wiggle room.
A little wiggle room. And take the C off for both honors and high honors, or just honors?
Or maybe just, that's an idea, maybe for high honors, there's no
That's
C.
better.
There's no C.
Yeah, I don't feel good about taking that C off of high honors.
And for honors, there's no grade requirement, it's strictly the GPA, weighted GPA.
Yeah.
So this.
Well,
this
you
has been
shouldn't be
really-
able to get on an honor roll if you get an F. I don't get that. That just flies in the face. I mean, even a D kind of makes me, I mean, but I'm not the educator.
No,
So,
but frankly, because you are a parent and you read the newspapers, I mean, that's some feedback that, individually principals get is, how can there be so many kids on the honor roll?
right.
And so, we want the community to know that we have high expectations for kids, so that's good to explain that. My hope is that after we have this conversation, we have the conversations with the school councils, I'd like to do maybe a parent forum just to get some feedback. And then, bring this back to you with sort of the collective information, we'll have a draft 2 at least, maybe draft 3 by then. Based
So I
on-
think
on
it's
some
going to be
conversations.
interesting to see what happens at the parent forum, because the goal is not to have everybody.
Yeah.
Well, if everybody's achieving.
everybody's achieving it,
Right,
yeah,
then it
right.
doesn't matter, but
Absolutely.
it's the rigor of the
Right.
standard.
Right, and I want to be clear, everybody who's achieving it now is achieving at the level we've asked them to achieve to make
Exactly.
the honor roll. So that,
Exactly.
nobody's put on there by mistake,
Right.
in that regard. So this has been good.
Is there a number 5? Is that weight different than all this weight that you're talking about?
So that probably needs some clarification in our second draft as well. It sort of works out that way for middle schools because those grades would get averaged together. So it's probably not worded correctly because they're going to be inclusive
I think you have it right, really.
in there, so, I mean, we at the middle school, we only have kids having related arts twice a week. So, their appropriate weight is, and we offer 6. So you're essentially going to have, they need a third of the time.
Right.
So they're going to be weighted as a third, just by the nature of sort of mathematics.
Yeah. I mean,
It's hard to use weighted there, and then the high school conversation gets confusing.
Who did you develop this with?
What's that?
Who did you develop this with? Was this with the
This
school
was
councils?
This
or
was
just the principals?
this was just amongst the principals.
Okay.
There was some work already done with one of the school councils, and then we took it from there. And then I brought in the principals, and now we're sharing it out with the school councils.
Okay. So there are a lot of other people that are working on this?
Yeah.
That are working on it.
More to come.
Great, thanks. Well, maybe we just finish this new business section with the bookmark discussion, well.
Sure.
And that might be of interest or not to principals.
They don't need to stay, it's certainly, although they've been party to the conversations thus far. So for the public's, I've talked about Park before. This year, we've been part of a pilot. We've had a number of students involved individually. Thank you.
Patrick's like, I'm in the corner, I don't know.
And so so next year, because the state will be taking over the financing for the second year of the pilot, the state has asked districts to volunteer to be party to the pilot again. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, do we want to be part of that pilot? The reason why I'm bringing it to your attention, so you're aware and the community's aware, is that if we choose MCAS, which is one of the options, we have 2 options. We can either stick with MCAS or we can go forward with PARC.
if we stick with MCAS, everybody takes MCAS, our 10th graders take MCAS, we're just doing MCAS for another year. The following year, the state has committed to changing what they are doing for their statewide assessment. They have said it could be PARCC, or it could be another assessment that will be designed in the near future after their vote, which was in the fall of 2015. Or we could do PARCC, in which case we could do PARCC for all of our schools, except the 10th grade MCAS stays, and the 10th grade MCAS stays no matter what until 2018, and they've committed to that, because that's the competency determination for graduation. And PARCC is only in math and ELA. So we would also continue with the science MCAS for grades 5, 8, and 10, or 9th if they take the 9th grade piece. So I've been leaning toward and feel that there's no value to us as a district to participate in the pilot, because we're going to have another year to ramp up after they make a decision. There's no repercussions as far, if we did decide to do pilot, there's no repercussions as far as our accountability, because they have said that everybody will be held harmless for a year. I also think that because we've been doing so much work with our district determined assessments, and many of our teachers have chosen MCAS as their district, have to have MCAS as their district assessment. If we changed, it just feels like another thing that our teachers have to deal with, and we've had a lot of conversations here, informally and formally, about the burdens of some of the mandates of the last couple of years that have just, been burdensome. I mean, they've just, and our teachers have done a phenomenal job in addressing each and every one as it's come down the pike. So I've reached out to our Teachers Association to get their sense of things. I'm looking for your input. We do have to make a decision. I have to send in a form by the end of June. I went to a meeting yesterday. I'm going to another one on Thursday. I'll hear more about how different districts are going across the state. If yesterday's indication, about 2/3 of the room raised their hand, and they are doing PARCC as the pilot.
Why?
I think a couple of things. They want to prepare, they see it as an opportunity to prepare their kids to take tests using technology, and to have that as their practice year when it doesn't count to their favor, unless it's to their favor. If it is to their favor, the state will recognize that, but they're held harmless if it dips below.
I'm really glad this is coming up, because have you talked or heard from any of the kids that took part?
Just informally, I haven't had any formal sessions. I did see some survey results that the state has provided, that's all.
Because I have a student who came home and was freaked out about it. And this is, and it's not, and so I'm not asking other parents what they thought about it. I've heard from 2 other parents. I think the issue, at least in the 6th grade, was they were being measured and asked to respond to questions that they had no idea what the concept of the math was. Now, I don't know that that happens in MCAS. I don't think it has, or I would have heard about it. So that's kind of it was a real, I didn't do well. And even though the kids know that it doesn't count on their grade,
right,
it's still a test. Sure. We're still putting them through the rigors of taking a test. It's still an anxiety-creating environment. And so the question I have is, so if you were said, are you looking for a yay or a nay on PARCC? I'd say no, but that's just my personal situation. But if we are preparing them for, and that's interesting that the other school districts are saying they're kind of using it to just prepare the students, which I don't know if I buy that idea. What does that get us? Or what does that do to the students if they go from we've always done it this way, now we're gonna do it this way, then we're gonna do another one.
Exactly.
And it's like, ooh, you know, so let's create more anxiety. But I'm not looking to push my opinion on it, it just seems that way.
I think that's the struggle with this, looking at both sides. There are advantages to both. I think there are disadvantages to participating in the pilot. I really don't think there are any disadvantages to staying with MCAS for one more year. And I just think looking at our overall district, we're in a good position to start in the September of 2015 with whatever assessment they tell us is coming in the spring.
Yeah, it sounds less disruptive.
I think of all the discussion we've had recently with all the burdens of our teachers and how they're feeling, to add something different to them, whether it's a big impact or not. I like feeling good conscience. I can't say, let's just mix something else up for them. If it was something that we knew was going to happen and continue, that's a different story. But we don't even know. I mean, they can do it for a year and then say, okay, now get ready for this one. So I just think for the purpose of the teachers that I say no.
Ditto. Yeah. Ditto. They need a break.
Yeah.
I mean, there doesn't seem to be a compelling argument that Park would give us so much more in this 1 year, and especially where we don't know if that's definitely what they're even going to go with in the end. It just seems like the disruption of...
That's not to be consistent for a little bit.
Yeah. And see how things shake out in the end, so.
So do we need to vote on this?
We don't need to vote on it. I'm waiting for the teacher input. I want to hear from the teacher association on this. And I'll bring back my recommendation, and if there's yays, unless there's a huge, I'm not hearing.
And didn't you also say that some of the teachers have the MCAS results as part of their...
Right.
Yes, well, all the teachers in grades 3 to 8 and grades 3 to 8 have an MCAS DDM by requirement.
You had said that 2/3 of the room, they're going with this. Was this something that they had to answer, or was this just an informational, are they doing this?
Yes, a sense of the room. Yeah.
Is there a date that you have to tell them? I mean, I'm
Yes,
just wondering when states...
I just got the link. They want to have, they're trying to budget, so the actual deadline is June 30th, but they're encouraging us to fill in by May 30th so that they can, let people know earlier that they run out of money.
So they're pushing this because they want to see how many people, they're looking for the results to see what happens, or to see whether they're going to go to something different?
Right, so we took the pilot assessments this year, so they'll look at that test data this summer. And then next year's data will be available the following fall.
Any idea if that's the direction they're going to go in?
I mean, the commissioner is trying to say that no decision has been made, but they're not looking at any other assessment, and they've invested heavily in Park. We're one of 18 states that have gone forward with it, and we're part of the national consortium as a Commonwealth. He's the chairman of the board of that group, so I'd be very surprised if we didn't go with Park.
I kind of agree not to do it this year, but is anyone looking at it to see how it's different? And how it...
Yes, I mean, that's part of what they're looking at. I mean, in the design of the test, it's very different because it's a performance-based assessment. That is, that it has very, very few multiple choice questions. It asks kids to perform, and so they have to figure out math problems using strategies of their own making, and they have to design. I think it's a very well-designed test, but part of what they're learning too is what's not working, what questions have to be thrown out, etc.
I'm just wondering how they grade it if there's no multiple choice.
No, there's an answer they want you to show.
There's a rubric for each answer.
There's no multiple choice though.
Right. There's a rubric for each, and these are, so there are two tests, should be clear. There's this, what they call the PBA, the performance-based assessment, and then there is something called the EOY, the end of the year assessment. and that's primarily for the high school courses. So every Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 have an end of the year. So also under PARC, we expand the number of grades that get tested. We'll be doing 9, 10, and 11. And so there's end of year ELA, end of year math, end of year for all 3 grades. And after 2018, presumably, they'll decide what is going to be the year for this certificate of competency. So there's a lot more testing with the next generation of assessments will be more.
I wish we didn't have to do
assessments.
more testing. I wish we could do less testing.
I agree.
So do we have to change? I mean, we're setting up for core values. I mean, we're doing frameworks now, we're doing core, right? So is this test in line with core?
It's aligned with core. MCAS is not. MCAS has not been revised for a number of years.
Because it was, how long have we been doing core?
Since 2010.
It's still...
It's still new enough that, we still have some work to do to work out our own.
Because that's what the teachers are doing in the summer, right?
That's
isn't that
part of it,
the,
yes.
Yeah, they're still working on it. Doesn't count.
Okay, can we,
It doesn't count.
focus a little?
No, sorry, just where I was going.
Are we done with the park discussion?
I think so.
Okay. We have 2 things on the agenda because we're a little out of order that we have to do at some point. We have new business, old business coming up. We have to do our subcommittee reports, and I neglected to ask about correspondence.
Yeah, where's correspondence?
It's not on there.
It's not on the agenda for whatever reason. Is it the desire of the committee to finish moving along the agenda with old business, and then we'll do the subcommittee reports and correspondence? Or, I don't know if we have people in the audience who are waiting for something on the agenda? No? Okay.
Are you waiting for anything, Sam?
No, just watching.
Maybe a future school committee member?
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that if there was somebody waiting for a particular thing, we weren't pushing it off. Doesn't sound like there is. Should we move along and do old business? Sure. Okay. We have policies, second readings, that we need to vote on tonight. We have the executive sessions. Should we go through these one at a time? Or does anybody have any comments or suggestions?
Much discussion.
There was not much discussion because,
There's
to
not
be
much change.
totally honest, there weren't a lot of changes. We talked about what the changes were very briefly last time. And the idea was we all go home and digest it and think about it and see if we come back with any comments. If nobody has any comments, we could take a motion to vote on them. I don't want to rush this if anybody feels like they want to talk about it. But on the other hand, if we can move right along, I'd never object to that.
We all read them, right? We're good.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
God help me. To accept the second readings, is this correct? Am I going in the right direction?
Yes.
Of the...
As amended, maybe?
What? As amended of the following policies, as amended, the executive sessions, notifications of school committee meetings, minutes, public participation at school committee meetings, and special procedure for conducting hearings, policies.
Second. All those in favor?
You see what?
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Is that-
Yeah.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. I was channeling Maureen Bush.
Okay, and then we have the superintendent's evaluation. It's a summary of everybody's surveys that were completed. I believe there were 6 surveys completed. The superintendent's evaluation summary is in your packets. Anybody hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to read that over. Would anyone like to discuss that, or?
I just have one question.
Sure.
And the question is, how are your goals determined? Like, you have in your head, you know where you want to take this. And my question is born from, actually, I'll be honest with you, that goal for 2015, address staff and teacher satisfaction, I would really like to see something like that. I don't know if you're planning on adding something like that, but I think this was probably the toughest year for teachers, and they're probably coming down on the other side of it now. And I'd really love to see something like a staff and teacher sat survey instituted, but I want to hear what you think about that.
Sure. So every year, all of our teachers are surveyed through the school surveys.
Through their, they are?
Yeah.
Why don't I see that?
Because those go to the school, they're the school improvement surveys. So we have data like that, but we certainly can do it district-wide.
You know why? Because I really think that it's not about you're spending a lot of time encouraging teachers to work across the district, to collaborate and to come up with really valuable, useful solution sets that can be replicated throughout the district. And I think that the satisfaction is not about I don't want to say the word because it's inappropriate, a moaning kind of a thing. It's more about, do you feel like you have the support you need? If you don't, what do you need? It's not about an individual, it's about the support surrounding that teacher, including the administration, but it's not just targeted to the administration.
Right. So we do get some of that feedback from the teacher surveys that we send out via the schools. We also do, after every PD event that we have, we do surveys. So we get feedback, and they're very honest. So we learn a lot about what they need for professional growth.
Related to that particular professional development activity?
It is, but they use that opportunity because they know that we read them and that the committee looks at them. So we get generic feedback as well.
Okay.
But for the majority of it, it's targeted to the questions that are asked about what we're doing. But it's another way that we collect evidence, in terms of what teachers need and support. But we can design a feedback questionnaire around several different areas about what their needs are. So it's more about their needs in development.
I think it would be useful. I also think, we talked about this a few meetings ago, you can't be everywhere all the time, but I think if the teachers had access to you in some form, and not just because they were unhappy about something, but they want to be able to share information with you. And I think it's a good thing to be able to dig deep below a level and see, no offense to George and everyone else, but it's important. And I would like to see that information too, because I want our teachers to go anywhere. I mean, I'm really happy with the teaching staff that you have developed here, and it's one of the biggest sources of pride in the district. So I want to know that they're happy, and I want to know if you need support from us, what is it? And I want to hear it from them too, right? So I would encourage some type of a feedback mechanism.
I like what you said because it's measurable, but you said that that when they give you feedback, they know that the committee's reading it. We don't see that, so is there another committee?
PD committee.
Okay.
That's who uses those surveys.
Would it be as simple as just taking a look at those? I mean, is it relevant? But that's really, you said it's about that situation.
It's about that
event.
Doesn't
make sense. And it doesn't have to be exhaustive.
I can also get the surveys that the schools do. Share those.
That would be
That's all-
interesting.
that's all.
Yeah, that would be
That's more of a
interesting.
summative kind of thing, right?
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
um,
It's hard to tease through the comments because they're all just listed, but
Yeah.
it can be a sense of-
Uh,
Oh, you're right. I remember doing that with Sawyer. Yeah, we need to do that. That should be part of it.
yeah, I think that's a great suggestion.
That's all I have.
Anyone else have any comments or things to talk about with superintendent's evaluation? We do need to vote on it. Everybody has it in front of them. I don't, it might be, yes.
And just to be clear, so you need 2 votes. You need one, and they can be inclusive, but you need 1 vote on the narrative, and then you need a vote of a statement of level. So exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, or unsatisfactory.
For overall?
For overall.
Okay.
And Julie, did we have that in here?
I don't know if we did.
I'm not sure we did either. I think in the summary sentence we might. Let's see. No, we didn't write that.
No, we actually didn't. If we were to look in the attached survey results, would we find them in there? Yes.
Overall rating.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's just it's on page 9. Oh, no, that's just in one area. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking it's later than that.
Michael, this one right here is superintendent's performance rating for standard 2 management and operations. Down here it talks about environment.
Yep.
Is that culture?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find myself.
There's one of them that's placed weird, but that's not.
Here we go.
Overall summative.
Page 18.
So,
Overall summative performance. We have 5 out of 6 rating him as proficient in a scale of exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. Perhaps, Alita, you could add that to the second to last paragraph. That the committee gave the superintendent an overall summative performance rating of proficient.
So we need a vote to, what was the first one?
the narrative, and then with the comment, either separate or inclusive, just as you're doing, is fine.
So maybe if we said the summary as amended, that would cover both bases, wouldn't it?
I make a motion to accept the summary as amended of the superintendent's evaluation and his overall rating proficient. Is that fine?
I think so. Second. All those in favor?
So he doesn't need any improvement?
No, that's not.
No, it's just the overall, when it came down to the survey thing. No, we pinpointed each thing and then all the results are in there too.
We have to give an overall.
We had to get an overview of it all.
And that was just taken right from the survey results.
And I will tease out those areas of the comments for areas of improvement, and I don't think I actually answered specifically your question, but I'll take those and factor them into my goal setting for next year.
We have a, show of hands again, all those in favor? You're abstaining?
So when Perry was in earlier, last week we talked, he was talking about environment and this, and I was calling it community, and I think you call it culture. So, and I was just,
is this for the group, or is this, can we do this after?
Well, it's part of this one right here.
Okay.
That environment that you pointed to is about safety, that we have heat, we have, the right kinds of mechanisms to keep kids safe, keep teachers safe.
Okay.
In that particular scheme for operations.
Subcommittee reports will take us hardly any time at all. Student advisory, we've already done. Finance, Maureen?
We approved the warrants, and that was about it.
Okay. Personnel, we have, as you all know, come to tentative agreements with Unit A. We're in the middle of negotiations with Unit C. Hopefully there will be news forthcoming in the next month or so on both of those fronts. The policy subcommittee, as we've already done since we've reversed the order here, we've gone through all of the second readings on the 5 different policies that were up for review, and they passed. CPAC, Michael?
Yes, that's the new name for, we used to call it SPEDPAC.
Oh,
But now they
okay.
call themselves CPAC.
Okay.
They have one more presentation on May 29th.
Presentation to whom?
If I got the right date, or May 28th? May 29th. It's a presentation to, it's been widely publicized for executive functioning, and the name is escaping me.
For parents?
For parents, yes.
Okay.
And all parents, not just special education.
Right, right.
Do we have a logo?
What's that?
Is that a logo?
I'm working on it.
I think it looks cool. You're getting there.
It's a challenge because we work in Google and we download into Microsoft Word, and it doesn't quite line up as I'm looking at it.
Last but not least, Lorraine with the space study.
I wasn't at the last
Actually,
meeting. Oh, okay.
so we met on April 29th, no, April 30th, and so we're working on developing questions and a rubric that we use to go visit schools. We hope to get in a few visits before the end of this year, which will be a culminating event for us, and we'll probably at our last meeting develop our notes for an update for the full committee. It's been a good series of meetings. I think we're definitely understanding the needs of the high school, and looking at different aspects of how to fund it, in terms of what the different models are that are out there.
Is there something in particular you're looking for or at in the visits?
Just looking at what high schools look like for the 21st century, trying to get an idea around space. Obviously, we know, how did they build coalitions for understanding of the needs of the high school, trying to get a sense of if they chose a Reno, are they happy with it? Part of what has been a driving question from the very beginning is how to define the return on investment. So, which I think is a grounding question that we're trying to gather data around. So, after you've built this wonderful space, how has it changed your educational experience, so that we can explain to the community where there's value in their new investment, and it would be new investment.
Do we have a person who's going to handle like actually putting together some sort of an ROI?
For our, well, I think we'll that's part of what we'll do. I think we're going to have to
we
define
really,
that.
would be so valuable.
Yeah.
Are you just doing this for high school?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we still haven't finished paying for the renovation from the last time. When's that going to be done?
2028.
I think so. 2026.
Layton, you gotta go tour that school and you gotta see what's going on.
I've been at it, and I...
During the day when the kids are there?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what?
A building's a building. Is it safe?
I don't know that you could say that it's safe with the lack of space that they need.
So we're overcrowded.
So pardon?
We're overcrowded.
I think so.
So what's the capacity of the high school?
When we look at the actual physical classrooms, it's about 1250.
And what do we have right now?
1036.
But Lynn, I think you also have to take into consideration, and I'm not arguing for or against, I think you have to take into consideration that whenever the high school was originally built, and there might have been some tweaks to it, the way learning occurs now and the types of classes that are critical for us to offer don't necessarily fit into those square holes.
As far as what? I mean, that's a discussion for you guys, but I mean.
I think you should come to the meetings. Dan, come to the meetings, and yes, I did. Come to the meetings, come to the meetings, come to the next meeting. Will you please put her on the agenda?
We have
On
a
the invite
citizen's
list?
comment. Go ahead.
I'm someone who has been attending the meetings, and I think that very topic is one that I and perhaps other members are raising, saying there's a particular kind of activity, curriculum, perhaps program is the name for it, that is different than the current building, and it's a struggle to figure. It's an undone effort to figure out what is the program, how is it, in a manual or paper, what is the program and what are the program's demands in terms of facilities.
Right.
And I think from my perspective, sort of understanding the history of the district, this is kind of left over from the tremendous turmoil that happened 10 years ago in the building, and the accounting difficulty and the turnover of superintendents, that in many ways there's not a comprehensive facility document as well as a program document, and perhaps possible to say, based on what I can explore on the website, perhaps there's not even a comprehensive strategic plan for the whole district. And because those three major documents don't exist, it's hard to figure out how they all mesh, because there's not a conversation that's currently happening here at this committee level for them. And I think there's some hard discussions to become, because these will need to get created, I think, to have a proper conversation about the facility.
Right, which is part of why an ROI would be really helpful.
So yeah, an ROI would relate to what is a strategic plan? Are you
Well, we'll tell
meeting
you
that
exactly
strategic
what
plan?
you're doing,
Yeah.
or what you intend to do. You might not have all the answers, but you can be directional.
Not sure it's easy to do an ROI. There's a lot of opinions.
But you agree on what your measurement standard is. And then you get beyond those hurdles.
And we can work backwards too, because I think we have, the small renovation relatively of 2002, that was completed in 2002. We can look at some of those caliber, those areas, and at least, give us some sense of looking backwards as to what they are. So, I think that would be helpful. While we would disagree on the comprehensive nature of a plan, we do have a strategic plan. I think what has been challenging is that, and it's a chicken or the egg kind of thing, in terms of where the teachers feel they need to change, they don't put the energy in changing because the space doesn't facilitate it, so they don't change. So that's a bit of a chicken or egg kind of issue. So we can do the visioning of what kinds of educational experience we would like to give to kids, and measure that up against what we're doing, which is a valuable exercise. Part of MES is doing that, so we'll have that.
Any other comments or points? Okay, last but not least, oddly placed, actually second to last, was correspondence. I know a couple of you have said you've had some things.
I got just comments from the Chris Heron presentation and how powerful it was, and from a parent who has experienced this in our community and says, can't say how important she feels it is to get him back to talk to our parents, starting at middle school.
Yeah.
And just how powerful it was, and
A lot of
it really
positive
just
feedback.
needs to
Heard
be
the same thing.
a focus on, I mean, this kid started, I don't know if you guys know the background, but it started out, he had a couple beers in his parents' basement when he was in high school. The parents didn't know, but, that's not an uncommon occurrence in any high school. I mean, whether we want to believe that or not, it isn't. So I had that saying, and I just think that would be really important for us to get him back, to talk to parents, because I think parents need to be made of, I think we all like to have rose-colored glasses, I mean, we all do, but I think for our children's sakes, we need to face reality, and sometimes it's hard, it's often hard, but I think it's really important. And along the same lines is, I think last agenda, I asked for update on sort of substance abuse in our district and how we're handling it. And I know that the dogs went through at one point this week, but I also heard that they didn't go in the high school, and I'm curious as to why that didn't happen.
Basically, it's a phase. Dr. Graham wanted to do the perimeter first as an introduction to using the dog. He doesn't plan on bringing him back, so that will happen.
No one sort of thinks that, okay, this is your warning.
It's a surprise.
I mean, not that I want to
Yeah.
catch kids, but you want to catch kids because, you know, I don't know why you wouldn't just.
And the service is free, from what I understand.
It
They
is
just
free.
come in,
Right.
it takes
So
40 minutes,
if
they
you see
read
it
it,
right,
they're done.
I don't understand why you didn't walk to the school that day.
I was surprised her they didn't go in either.
Surprised. And that, the email said, right, the parking lot and in the
Right.
school, that we all got, said that,
I'd have to reread it.
yeah.
I thought it was just the parking
I
lot.
remember the parking lot
think it was
and the
just the parking
grounds, I
lot.
thought it said.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
it was the
grounds.
wording
Yeah.
was different, so.
He does have plans to bring him back.
Um,
And the substance abuse, so we have a group at our high school that's looking at high school substance abuse, and I'm meeting with them in June, and so they'll come back whenever we decide. I don't know if we got our text back yet from.
That was going to be in your superintendent's report.
Yes.
Which is why
Yeah.
So I will be having that group come at our first meeting in June, first or second, so we know when it is.
Oh, wait, sorry.
This isn't Kara's response, I can tell you Kara can meet that here.
Oh, she did respond? Yeah,
She did, yeah, we can get back
We'll
to
wrap
that.
up with that.
Yeah.
Other correspondence?
Yeah, we had a letter from somebody from Stowe that wanted to know about the extension to 30 minutes.
The kindergarten day?
Yeah, she wants to know why the half-day program is, how she worded it, that the half-day program is no longer a good program. She said, what do you mean, what do you mean? That was the impression she got. So she just wants to know why it's being extended and why it's being talked down.
So I don't think anybody's talking down about the value of half-day in terms of what it'll offer our kids. There have been conversations initiated by our teachers to add 25 minutes to go to 12 o'clock because they have begun to do mock schedules, and they feel like that added block of time would give them really a better transition for the afternoon. And so that's the conversation. They're conducting their visits to some other schools. I know they're going this week, and I think they have one planned for next week before.
Does that alter negotiations at all, or, because that's additional 25 minutes for a half-day
Yeah,
program?
does that impact?
It doesn't impact anything for us.
And does it bother the bus schedules at all?
There won't be any, other than what we have now, we just tell them when they come.
I don't know about
And since
scheduling.
there's no afternoon kindergarten to coordinate.
Right. There's no
Probably
issue
fewer
there.
buses than
Kind of inching a little closer to that full-day kindergarten thing. Kind of making me, it's what it is.
That's next year's conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm not having that one right now. I don't want to go there.
Lorraine, did you have some?
I do, and we took care of Park, so thank you. I had a few people, even people at the town level, ask about US News and World Report rankings, high school rankings, and why we were unrated. We had earlier in the year looked at the methodology, which still stands. So I had some information about that, but it might not be a bad idea for you to address that for other folks.
I did do it on my television show, but we'll have Dr. Graham.
I don't know why I always chuckle every time he says that.
I still don't know how to find it.
I don't either, actually. I did look.
I couldn't find it.
For those who wouldn't have who would watch this, though, maybe it would be helpful.
Did you think about a contest for a bumper?
For what?
What do they call them, that lead-in song or whatever? You know?
I have not yet, no.
Because I think that they would watch it if there was a contest of some sort,
Huh?
to see who won. But I mean,
Okay, yes, could you, because then I have two more things and one big one.
Okay. We still in
The
our
US News
correspondence?
and World Report.
Right, so I'll ask Dr. Graham to come to the next meeting. and-
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that.
Great.
And the DC trip, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know, I know it comes up every year because I was part of it and I was not part of it and turned it off, but I wonder if it would be an option to have Joel publicly come out with whatever the rationale is and be done with it.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of stuff out there. It is seen as a huge takeaway, and I know we've gone down this road. But from an educational perspective, we're a school district, and it's not just the other two schools in the district. That's like a real sore spot. But many schools across the country take their students to the country's capital because of the wealth of educational opportunities there. If I hadn't had a teacher approach me, I would never have brought it up. But because a teacher approached me and said, if they asked for other teachers other than 8th grade, I would absolutely raise my hand. Well, there's a thought. But we really need to kind of come to a conclusion on this one. And if the conclusion is, this is why we don't do it, and you say it's because our teachers don't want to do it, I think parents need to hear that. Because to me, that's disappointing. It's disturbing, actually. Okay, so should I give that to you and I'll leave it?
I'll take it.
Thank you. And then the last thing is, and it's really kind of a surprise, impressive thing that happened, and I'm going to try to keep it to the salient points, but I'm not going to cut it off. A couple of weeks ago, I got an email from the GSA club at the high school, which is the Gay Straight Alliance. And they asked me, they said they had some concerns, and they asked if I would come as a community liaison. And I thought, oh boy, what am I getting into? I don't know. So I went, and I was so impressed with this group of kids that I wrote Michael a letter about it. Their concern is, you know, they talked about bullying, they talked about the fact that what it really boils down to is they're concerned about substance abuse in the schools, but they truly believe that the substance abuse issue has prongs, and the biggest prong is that kids are not taught early enough the issues of self-awareness and self-acceptance. And so whether you're gay, straight, or somewhere in the middle is a part of that. And so what they have asked for is, could we, meaning them, come and speak with Mr. Wood and his group to impact the health program across the district and to try to encourage a broader sense of self-worth, and then the impacts of all those things that go with it. And one of the things they said was, in the sex ed component of the middle school program, and I really want the kids to say more to you about this, so I'm not going to give it all away, but they were told that they didn't even know what certain things were. It was very clinical, but very like 1950s, 1960s, the curriculum. And the suggestion was, you know, we want to be taught sexuality in a constructive way, not an inappropriate way, but in an age-appropriate way. So why can't we push it down into the middle school so that it's age-appropriate? And why can't we look at impacting the high school health classes and have it be about identity versus just biology? And I actually think that the way that they described it was so powerful, so mature, and so focused that that was why I had written to you and said, could you make a suggestion? So Michael's response was, absolutely. I was so impressed. I told them today, they were all so excited. They're putting together a structured discussion point. They're going to identify the two kids that will talk. You're going to be so impressed. But what they want to do is to meet with Michael and his team to talk about what their suggestions are to extend the health program. And then they also have some suggestions for, kids who are transitioning from the middle school to the high school, having that discussion in freshman orientation, like being part of the freshman orientation introduction, talking to the middle schools, because there were a couple kids that said, you know what, I had a really bad middle school experience, and if I had known somebody from the high school who had gone to my middle school and had come and spoken to me about it, I would have felt like I don't have to be scared. Whether, again, it's not just a gay, straight, whatever issue, it's about self-awareness and self-acceptance. So I think we all need to listen to the message these kids are putting together, and I'm really thankful that you were as positive and encouraging as you are. So my question to you is, what do we do for next steps? Because I've suggested to them that they put their presentation together.
Yep. And so I'm reaching out to I talked about having we have a school health advisory committee, and that's a parent-based committee that works with our health coordinator who is supervising the curriculum. So I'm going to talk with her and get these groups together and have some conversations. The sex health curriculum is it's been I think it was revised maybe in my first year here or second year here, so it's been a while and it's been looked at. It is a very complex unit to teach at any age, and it starts in our 5th grade program. But some of the points that you've touched on, I think, are, especially for the transition piece, I think are very important to do everything we can to help kids become introduced to our high school. And if you're already struggling with different kinds of questions, we need to have people that they can immediately feel comfortable with.
But I think Julie, it kind of dovetails with Julie's comment about having, is it Heron? Having him come back, there has to be, there should be, can we have, I notice how I'm pulling about, a way to look at, broaden the definition of health from just a biological, physiological discussion to a substance abuse, self-worth, whatever. Substance abuse is the outcome. Right? But a self-worth discussion. And I do think that substance abuse is in part a response to people feeling angry and left out and hurt and whatever.
Those are big parts of it.
So I'm really looking forward to you meeting with these kids. And hopefully if they've got something that you feel is valuable to add, I'd really love for them to come and talk to you guys. They are such impressive kids. Okay, I'm done.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
You do? Oh,
it's an easy one.
I'm good.
No, I think it's great that they're getting empowered, but do they have a mentor?
They do. They have
All right.
two teachers.
Co-advisors.
2 or 3 teachers who have been doing great work on, understanding what they're trying to say and help to direct. They're really impressive kids.
We hear about them.
Well, there's
We
great.
will. I mean,
we're hearing about them now.
But it's always about sports. It's always about, but we don't hear about the other groups.
Well, you've heard, they talk about the Day of Silence.
Day of Silence, we heard about
that's
that.
organized.
There was a great leadership thing where many student leaders of all different sexual orientations met and had a very healthy discussion. I'm not sure who led that, but Dr. Grant. And they did one this year. And I mean, really just healthy conversations amongst a very diverse group of kids. And, some of the kids over here had presumptions about some of the kids over here, and, you do this, so I assume you're going to be this. And it was really good for, a bunch of 15 to 17, 18-year-old kids to say, well, you think I play football, so you assume this about me. And you think I'm in the play, so you assume this about me. And turns out, they're all not so different after all. So I thought it was really good. Really good. But maybe we should mention it.
All right.
I'm done.
Okay. The only thing left on our agenda, well, there's 2 things left. One is going back to our reorganization issues and picking an evening for our upcoming meetings. And the word from Kara is?
The word from Kara is, because apparently she's the decision maker.
That does not have any.
I thought she held all the power. Wednesdays are not totally doable. I mean, not totally out of the question. Tuesdays are preferred.
Okay.
But she could.
Okay, so
she would, yeah.
I can't. You know what? I can't do Mondays, and I almost can't do Tuesdays because it impacts my personal life. So I would, if you're looking for input, I would compromise with a Wednesday because I really would like to do Thursday, but I get that people have issues.
Monday and Thursday, Kara absolutely cannot do because of her work days.
Okay. But Wednesday is not a work day for her.
It's not a work. I don't know what her conflict is.
It's looking like Wednesday. Does everybody agree?
There's no conflict in
Well, that's Wednesday for you.
Wait, we have
Wednesday-
selectmen meetings, don't we?
Tuesdays are selectmen meetings in Lancaster. And then Thursday is Bolton for Board of Selectmen.
When's Tri-Town?
Tri-Towns have been Wednesdays, but
That's what it
we'll
was.
just,
We can work around
that.
Does it work for you?
Maybe make them.
Who can't do Wednesday?
We just wait about tri-town. We can work
You said we can
around.
work around it,
Wednesday can work around.
It's only once a
And I
month.
think we should try to do 6:15. Maureen's been very quiet and
I'm okay with
yeah,
that.
6 is tough for her, very tough for her.
I'll do 6:15.
Actually, the 6 would be fine if I didn't have the finance subcommittee.
Oh, okay. So that's
It's
what
the
kills you.
subcommittee that.
So
Change the
that's,
time of the subcommittee.
right, that's the other thing too, subcommittees. Is this the time to be doing that?
Sure.
So I think, unless anybody wants to say otherwise, we'll stick with the same subcommittees, which are policy, finance and facilities, and personnel. It will be a slow year for personnel, because hopefully all of our,
I'll stay on that one.
Do we have to
Our
stay on the
negotiation.
same ones, or do we have to, how does,
you do not have to stay on the same ones.
okay.
It's my job, like it or not, to decide who's on what committee. So I'd like to do it like I've done in the past and have you tell me what you want to be on. I can't guarantee that I can grant your request, because if we get too many people who want to be on one, then
Right.
it won't work. But for the most part, I've been able to keep most people fairly happy, I think, I hope. I would say either send me an email, catch me on my way out the door, let me know what committee you want to be on. And at the next meeting, I'll have a list together
Got it.
of who's on what. But that, you bring up a good point. If this finance subcommittee timing is difficult.
You're good at that.
I know.
Yeah, you need to stay on the finance subcommittee. Let's just move it 15 minutes for you.
Well, can we accomplish what we need to accomplish?
We always do.
If we actually had real work to do, we would.
But I mean, we don't have a problem emailing each other and saying, here's something we need to discuss. Let's, so you get that out of the, people are prepared when they walk into the meeting, oh, there's a thought. But we do that anyway. Right?
Create an agenda, sure.
Well, as long as the numbers get out, so you guys can look at them in a
Yeah.
timely manner. How much time do you usually give them?
It's been 30.
No, I meant, when do you give them the financial report to look at?
We send it out the Friday before.
It's 2 to 5 days.
Next weekend meeting.
So 6:15, start for this meeting, so that you have an extra 15 minutes. Or
No, I think they're saying most of the time. I mean, if we actually just set an agenda ahead of time so that we didn't allocate a whole half hour unless we actually had stuff to discuss, that would alleviate my issue. Because
Right.
if we have a meeting that really the only thing we need to do is the warrants, then
Right.
we can do that in 15 minutes.
Yep.
If we actually have more stuff to discuss, we can make it earlier, and that's.
Or can you make it another time, like if you know you
We
have
could
a
do
lot of
another-
agenda? No, I'm just saying, on case by case basis. If you have
That's
time
true.
that
We
you
could
know that you're gonna have a lot of finance stuff to discuss, you can say, as long as you post it, right? You
Right.
can say it's gonna be at a different time.
Absolutely.
But that's not typical, right?
Right. Right. I mean, doesn't matter to me, but, I'm just worried for those of you who might have to come yet another time or stay at 9 o'clock
Yeah.
at night, which.
No, I'd rather just keep it the same day, but, agree that unless we have more to put on our agenda, that we'll keep it 15 minutes.
We can do that. And so have that start at 6.
So have the regular school committee start at 6, but
Oh,
have
okay.
finance
5:45.
subcommittee start
Okay.
at 5:45.
All right.
Unless we have more
Unless
to
we have
discuss.
more to discuss.
That's fine.
And then we can schedule it for an earlier time and post it appropriately.
Sure.
Or we can vote to 6:15.
Okay, so, to summarize, Wednesday meetings, the full committee meets at 6 PM, the finance committee meets at 5:45 unless otherwise notified.
And we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
That
Good?
sounds great.
Okay.
What?
Do we have to vote this?
You do have to vote. We can formally vote it at the next meeting.
So when, is the next meeting gonna be on a Wednesday then?
It'll be on a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, we don't have a schedule, I looked at, I think it's like, who have we done?
So are we going to start the new schedule with the next meeting or with
We
our
generally
fall?
have. We generally have started.
That's a really good question.
Want to finish out the year the way we are?
Yeah, I think
And
that's what we
then,
did
so it's
last
not
year.
confusing?
I think that's what we did last year.
Last year, we finished out this year, I think, on the same day.
Makes sense, right?
I think it makes
Please
sense.
don't ask me to
Yeah.
take on one more thing.
Because I don't have a problem with
So the next
Southwold.
meeting would be.
Yeah.
We can finish up the year on Wednesday.
Yeah, so let's stay the regular schedule until the fall.
Until our first meeting in August.
Right.
That's great.
Schedule it for
Okay, great.
June 3rd is the next meeting then?
Do we need to vote on this?
We'll vote at our next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Is there a reason not to vote tonight and just not that
We
we
could.
talk about it again?
Karen's not here, she's on.
Yeah, we can vote tonight. You've got enough members.
Yeah, but the times haven't really changed. I make a motion that we set our meetings for Wednesdays, it's regular meetings, Wednesdays, 6 o'clock, starting in the 2014-15 school year, with finance committee meeting at 5:45.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yay.
Great, that's just clean, now we don't have to thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Revisit it. Now, last but not least, if anybody has any agenda items for our next meeting.
Michael, can we talk about culture?
Sure.
The culture of the school, because you went away and you came back and you said that what we need to change is the culture. So, are we doing anything about that? Are we heading in a direction with that?
Yeah.
So school culture as an agenda item, discussion about that? Okay. Anyone else have a suggestion?
It's 2 weeks, right? I really want to get these kids into meet.
But we don't know because we haven't said it yet.
Yeah, I'll work on it. We'll get them in for the end of the year.
Just get them in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they want to
So is that next meeting June 3rd?
14, 15?
I don't know.
Yes, it would be
Yes.
Tuesday, right.
June 3rd policy, June 10th, last meeting, June 17th.
With 2 more meetings?
Well, it's up to you guys.
3rd, 17th, and I'm sorry.
10th will be policy. Third regular, 10th would be policy.
Okay.
And then if you have another meeting in June, it's the 17th.
Okay. Any other agenda items? No. Okay. We need a final motion. Oh, unless, any other citizens' comments?
Poor citizens.
Citizens' comments? Anyone?
Citizens'
Actually, I have
comments?
one comment, I don't know if it's just redundant, but it's interesting, my daughter and I were talking about the honor roll, and she had looked at it in the Stowe Independent and said, is it really that much longer than before? I said, I don't know. So I go to the boss, and Cindy says, oh yeah, I can barely fit it in now. It's running way longer than it did, let's say, 3 years ago. So I don't know, and she, I know the population at the high school has increased, maybe kids are getting smarter. Maybe Xbox is really making them smarter than we think. But, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I mean, you have to wonder if, oh, I don't know. But yeah, it's gotten very long. Yeah, so. Just the point.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now a final motion. Oh, please, Mary, go.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you, everybody. Nicole, I hope you weren't too scared away.